Welcome to the interview presented by Alabama Wrestling Forums. I'm Jackson Bast here with former UC coach and new Saraland Head coach, Coach Jordan Countryman. How are you doing today, Coach?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So let me start off by asking you, what got you into wrestling?
So, I joined wrestling. I think it was in like 1997, around that time. My dad grew up wrestling. Where I'm from, Prattville, when I was younger, we didn't have a wrestling program. They had dropped it sometime in the 80s. And my dad and my high school coach, they kind of committed to starting the program back up. And they sort of built it from the ground up, him and Coach Miller, Coach Trent Miller. So I think I was around second grade, around that age, when I really actually started to go to wrestling practice. But I feel like I'd kind of been around the sport my whole life, just with my dad and Coach Miller. Coach Miller was like almost like a father to me too. He's sort of always been in my life. So we would go to tournaments and hang around them, talk about wrestling. So, yeah, ever since I've been born.
So how did Coach Miller and your dad kind of give you a good foundation for the sport when you started out?
Well, I think they had no other choice but to start from the very basics because everybody going in had no idea what we were doing. Such a new sport at the time. Coach Miller was really, really good. He instilled, I think, more than anything, work ethic, but also, Coach Miller, it's always been a really big deal for him. He's not just creating good wrestlers. He wanted to instill character and build young men. That was really important to him because he had coached, me, my brothers, all my friends. He had coached all of our dads. So it was much more than just a sport to him. It truly was a family affair, and it meant a lot to him to see us succeed in life. But yeah, no, just from the beginning, it was always more than wrestling. It wasn't just the technical aspects. It was, the discipline, the toughness that it builds, and the character.
What was your high school career like?
I didn't have a bad high school career. I ended up winning state my senior year. Honestly, I really wasn't that good. I think I qualified. I qualified my freshman year, which was kind of a big deal. I really didn't know any better. I didn't really expect to qualify either. And then it kind of happened, and I didn't place, and I was really upset. And then my sophomore year, I actually didn't qualify. And I think that was kind of for me, that was a turning point in my career. I really needed that loss. I think I kind of took it for granted, going in as a freshman and qualifying, and then, losing in the blood round my sophomore year, that hurt. And, that adversity and that moment kind of really propelled me forward. My junior year, I placed third. I was pretty disappointed with that because I put in a lot of time and effort in the summer leading up to that. And then, I was able to win it my senior year. And that was a pretty special moment. And I think wrestling, especially where we were at, it was still relatively new. There weren't a lot of opportunities. Well, there were opportunities there. I think I just didn't know about it. And I didn't really seek them out like I could have or should have. So, yeah, that's kind of how my high school career went. It was nice to end on a high note, but also, like I said, I learned a lot more important lessons than just winning.
So obviously many of our viewers know that Jordan Countryman was your brother, and he was with you for your entire career. How did your brother affect your coaching career and your wrestling career?
Oh, I think it was that's another one, where I look at that and I think, without Hayden, without a doubt, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Just from a wrestling standpoint, he won a state title as an 8th grader. I was still in high school, and I didn't win that first year that he won it. So that was really hard, in some ways, to see that happen because I felt like I could have done more. But also, I'm so thankful because that pushed me. Him as a competitor just pushed me. Those brother rivalries are pretty strong. So I think without that in the room, I wouldn't have achieved what I did the next year, or really even that year, I think my junior year I placed third. That was the year that he won it, his first year. So as a competitor, it really pushed me. As a coach, he really kind of changed my entire philosophy on coaching. He went and wrestled at Virginia Tech, and then we got coached together for a few years. And he really kind of set the foundation and showed me how to coach. He showed me how to structure a practice. He showed me, what was important, what wasn't important. And I still do things and say things to this day, in a practice room, things that I learned from him. So he was obviously hugely, hugely influential on me, in every way.
So you started your coaching tenure. Obviously, you helped out with youth in college, and you went on. You coached over at Stanhope Elmore. What was the biggest learning curve for you from going from wrestling, being a competitor, to coaching?
It's different. I think I've always said that, like, it's really easy to shoot a double leg when you know how to shoot a double leg, but it's really hard to explain it if you've never had to explain it before, or to teach it and to go over the mechanics. The biggest struggle for me was understanding coaching is not the same as wrestling. Your success as a wrestler will not automatically translate into success as coach. And I think I struggled with that for a few years. I think maybe I was just a little entitled and thought that just because, I had achieved something, that I should achieve something as a coach as well. And it's not the case. I think you really learn how to develop and build relationships. I think I learned that at Stanhope, that was probably more important than anything, is building those relationships and getting the kids to understand that you care. And then, just from a technical aspect, I had to learn a lot in terms of, what was my identity as a coach? What did I want my team to look like? What was important to us? What were our core fundamentals? And I think that's something that's continued to change, and that I've continued to learn. And thankfully, I've gotten a little bit more efficient at it over the years.
So I don't know how many of our viewers know this, because you weren't at Prattville when I started this channel. So, and we got a lot of younger kids, but you had one of the best coaching tenures I've ever seen. At Prattville, you coached multiple placers, multiple state champs, a couple All-Americans. What were your kind of keys to success as a coach when you were coaching over at Prattville?
I think the key to having that success, and you'll find that with any program, is getting a group of guys that are willing to believe and buy in, and getting those group of guys to stick together. I think our greatest success came from, Caden McWhorter, Robbie Kilo, Brandon Cunningham, Cannon Funkhauser, those type of guys that kind of came through, Nick Baker, George Kazi. There's so many guys that, Terrence Perkins, they keep popping up into my head. Those were a strong group of guys that, loved each other. I think they really bought into kind of the team aspect, and also they had similar goals as individuals, and they were around each other. You'll see that success really starts to break down when you have individuals with varying different goals and different expectations. And if you're not surrounded by the right group of guys, it's really hard to be successful. I think the longer I'm around it, I think it seems that wrestling really will take a backseat to team culture. And I think that was one thing that was really important for us to be successful. They were very driven individuals, and it helped that, they had started kind of from the ground up, most of them, and they stuck together throughout that time.
What got you into collegiate coaching?
It was really by accident in a way. I was teaching at Prattville, coaching at Prattville. I wanted to get a master's, and I just didn't want to pay for it. And I just sort of started messing around with the idea of going back and maybe being a graduate assistant at a college. And I just saw that University of the Cumberlands, that they had an opening. And I just thought, why not? I was I was scared. I felt unqualified for sure. But you know, you never know until you take that leap and figure it out yourself. So I went there. I got the job as a graduate assistant. And then I stuck around long enough to where I was named the head coach. And so I got to do that for the past 2 years. And it's just been an amazing experience. Learned a whole lot, whole lot. Yeah, I've loved every minute of it.
From a college coach's perspective, what makes wrestling in college wrestling at the next level?
Consistency. I think, you look at it on a micro level, consistency within a match. There's not a lot. There can't be a lot of up down. You know, you got to be able to kind of go out there and sustain your level of effort and your toughness for 7 full minutes. And I think high school guys, you know, they're not quite ready to do that, especially maybe you go to, a high school tournament. Your first 2 matches might be, you'll probably pin the guy in the first period, or it's not going to be really much of a challenge. Whereas when you get to the collegiate level, you know, every day, every match is going to be hard. Every practice is going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge, and you have to be honed in and focused every single day. So I think just the level of consistency, because it's a higher pace. You know, it's a higher pace in everything. And high school guys, that's always a learning curve for them when they make that jump to the next level.
What was the biggest learning curve from coaching high school in Alabama to coaching at the collegiate level?
You know, I think at the collegiate level, I really learned to adapt. Everybody, you know, everyone who comes in and is going to be a starter, everyone's had some success. Everyone's good. You know, everyone kind of has their own maybe philosophy or their style. So I think there was a challenge in that, getting guys to buy in to a certain philosophy, but also letting them have the freedom and the autonomy to be who they are. And I think that's important at any level. You can't micromanage, you know, every little thing that they do. But even more so at the collegiate level, you learn to fine tune the things that they are good at, and not necessarily change who they are as a wrestler. In high school, and especially in junior high and youth, you maybe have a little bit more control over that. You develop them from the ground up, and you really instill that system within them. But at the collegiate level, you have to adapt. You have to be much, much better at adapting. And that was one thing. It was fun because you learn a lot as a coach, and you see different styles and different techniques. And it challenges you to accept it, and also to fine tune and to help them get better at who they are.
Awesome. So what are college coaches looking for in a prospective athlete?
Intangibles. The intangibles are so important. We've recruited guys that are, you know, multiple times state champions from the Midwest, and you would think on paper, you know, this is exactly what you want. And then we'll recruit a guy with not a lot of accolades, maybe from the South. But ultimately, when you get to the college level, the intangibles and the character, it makes all the difference. It doesn't really matter what you've done in high school. It doesn't matter how tough you were as a high school athlete. You know, can you have the focus, the toughness, the discipline to make the jump at the next level? Because a lot of these college matches and a college practice, especially that first month, it's just going to feel like a street brawl. And if you don't have the intangibles, you just won't make it. I think you have to have a little bit more of a love for the sport. Because if you don't love it, if you're used to kind of, you know, wrestling 3-4 months and then taking a few months off, you know, that's going to be a challenge. So you have to learn to kind of love just going out there, improving every day, being around the sport every single day. So ultimately, you know, that I think that really is, you know, huge as a recruiter. That's one thing that I've learned, because we've got burned on it a few times. You think that you can kind of make an exception for a kid, and it never works out. It never does. So, you know, that's really big. Intangibles, character, and then grades. Grades really are the key. You know, if you don't have the grades, if you will not qualify, you know, it doesn't matter. So I wish more high school kids would know that.
Yeah, I know that, you know, I didn't have the best GPA in high school, and I still have the opportunity to wrestle in college. But
Yeah,
definitely, when I talk to any college coach, it's always grades.
it really is. Yeah, so important.
More important. So obviously, you've recruited tons of athletes from the South. Especially Alabama. What's something that Alabama kids tend to have over the other kids in the national scene?
I think, we'll take Gage Hudson, for example. He's from Gulf Shores, Alabama. Um, didn't have a lot of experience. He was relatively new to the sport, but for one, he had all the intangibles that we were looking for. He was just a tough, gritty kid, and he was very coachable. But also, coming from that background, we knew that he had a very high ceiling. And then I think that's one thing we try to look for. And I think a lot of these kids from Alabama that we've recruited so far, they have a very high ceiling. Maybe they haven't been exposed to the biggest tournaments in the country and they haven't competed on that level just yet. But they're so willing to learn. And that's one thing that's been really exciting as we've kind of worked with these kids and recruited them and developed, is that they're so willing to develop. So, Gage Hudson was obviously an All-American this year as a redshirt freshman. He started out the year third string. A lot of people didn't know that, but, we didn't even think he would be in the starting lineup. And to go from that to being an All-American just kind of shows, how important the character and everything that he was, how important that was.
So obviously, the question that's on a lot of people's mind. I know you made the kind of a public announcement on Facebook about it, but why did you move from Cumberland's to Saraland?
So, this is kind of something that my wife and we've talked a lot about. I mentioned how, growing up, my dad and my coach, my high school coach, I watched them build a program from the ground up. And, I really kind of left Alabama because I wanted to, I mentioned I wanted to get my master's, but I also wanted to be in a successful college room, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be around better individuals so that someday I could come back and apply those lessons that I learned. So this was kind of something that had been on my mind for a while. We had some opportunities come up that were just sort of perfect timing for us. And then we just decided, hey, time is ticking. I always tell our guys, everybody is on death row. Everybody's on death row from the moment that you're born. And, you can't really kind of spend your life waiting. Sometimes you just have to jump and you have to pull the trigger and you have to go. And I think for us, that was sort of what it was. I just decided, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. There's a lot of exciting things happening at Saraland. Obviously, there's not a lot of wrestling down there. But that's sort of what excites me the most about it, is that I get to kind of come in and really put my fingerprint on it and create a program and establish it from the ground up, like I got to witness as a kid, seeing my dad and my coach do that. And I've always kind of wanted to it's always been in the back of my mind. So I can't wait to get started. I'm really, really, really pumped up about this opportunity.
So obviously, it's not very heard of a college coach coming back to coaching, and obviously you've got a very special reason you heard to doing this. And there's a high expectation for you to come in and completely build a powerhouse. Obviously, it's not going to happen. Rome wasn't built in a day. But
right.
Is there a lot of pressure you feel to make a powerhouse just like that?
No, I don't think I look at that as a pressure situation at all. I don't really think about those things, other people's expectations. I know exactly how I want to do it and the way I want to do it. And ultimately, whether or not we're a powerhouse in a lot of ways is kind of out of our control, especially today. I just want to improve and get better. And I think my main mission and focus and vision is to improve Alabama wrestling as a whole, improve wrestling down there in the South as a whole, to provide these opportunities for all of these kids I don't know if you followed us on like Instagram or things like that, but we're sort of given different reasons as to why wrestling is important and why you should wrestle. And one of the top reasons for me is that wrestling in the NCAA it has the second highest numbers of first generation college students. So kids that have, maybe never thought about going to college, never dreamed of the opportunity to go to college, wrestling is one of the best avenues to provide that. So I think, Mobile needs wrestling. Alabama needs wrestling. But just the opportunities that it provides is what drives me. So it's not really the expectation of trying to build a powerhouse or trying to do this or trying to do that. I think that stuff, hey, that'll come. If we're doing what we're supposed to do, and if we're focused on getting better and improving every single day, that'll come. But ultimately, I'm not going to measure my success by those metrics or anything like that.
Awesome. So actually, I've got a segment on my show called The Weigh-In where I have coaches weigh in on the hot button topics that are going on in Alabama wrestling now. And obviously, I don't know how much I know you follow a lot about Alabama wrestling as a head coach, but there's some stuff that I know people have been like, I've been away from wrestling a bit. So, but the first question I'm going to have is, do you think wrestling in Alabama should be one division or multiple divisions? And if so, how should you split it up?
I've got some kind of crazy ideas about that. One thing that, one of my assistant coaches is from Illinois, and I think they still do this. If they don't, this is how they used to do it. But I like having one division. And, I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, that's going to, teams will never have success. Well, I think having one division, naming one state champion, but also not keeping team score at the individual state tournament. And instead, your team state title, you classify that. You do that by classifications, because I think, having that team aspect is so important. I think that's how you really build a program, by promoting and developing the team. When I was at Prattville one year, we came in third in the state tournament, and I think we only had four placers. So as a team, we weren't real good that year, but individually we were really good, and obviously it helped us out in the team score. But I look back at that, and we kind of used it to our advantage. But is that really the right way to determine who the best team is? And I think it's hard to get these kids to believe in their contribution to the team if they don't really have a very special moment to show that. And I think the duels is where you really show that. So I like having one division. I think it's special. It's easier for a college to recruit, because then they can see, like, it's hard. Like Georgia's difficult. There's seven state champions in one weight class. So you have no idea, really. Georgia's good. We know that. And they've kind of overcome that hurdle. But I'm one division all the way, I think. Even though it's harder to develop and to win individual titles, I think it's special. It's more special that way.
I think that's a very interesting thought process behind doing you have the one thing, but you also have the team aspect and separate.
Yeah.
I've heard some really cool ones, like just do the one division, but let's make it team duels is every single kind of division. I think people should just go and talk. We have a democracy. We need to do this.
Yeah. Well, then, you obviously place top 8 in the individual tournament. So you're going to have more, plenty of placers, which I guess, do they do top 6 in any of the divisions? I can't remember.
They did top 6 back like last year, but this year they didn't have any sectional tournament. So
right.
They did top 8 in 5-6A, which is absolutely ginormous. Those are really big.
Yeah.
And then 7A and 1 through 4A were both 6 placers. So.
Which, how cool was the 5A, 6A tournament? I saw upsets galore. Man, it was just so exciting. And I think, I don't know. And I get the counter argument about smaller schools struggling to have success. But I don't know. I really like being able to promote and spotlight wrestling and spotlight one state champion for weight. That's a big deal,
So my next question is going to be, do you think that wrestlers should be able to go to club during the season?
Absolutely. 100%. I think it's crazy. I think I just don't understand the logic of taking opportunity away. That's just if you want to work and if you want to get better, then by all means do it. I know the rules are just a little wacky in season and out of season even as well, and then the way that coaches can interact. Obviously, there's a reason that they have implemented these rules, but I think as time goes on, it's also wise to take a look at them and navigate and see what's working and what's not. If Alabama wants to succeed on a national level, which they 100% can, then they're going to have to make some changes with that. So you're seeing Georgia, some of the recruiting classes that they've had the past few years. I remember when I was in high school, you could put the top Bama guys against the top Georgia guys and we would beat them. We were going to come out on top. And, just over the past 10, 15 years, that's really kind of reversed to where Georgia's turned into a powerhouse. So, you have to look at that. You have to we want to compete. I think we want to compete on a national level. And I think for me as a high school coach, I want to create kids that want to compete and that will compete on a national level. I think it's bigger than just our state. What kind of opportunities can you provide beyond the state of Alabama? So what do I know?
So obviously, you were at Cumberland, so you kind of saw what a girls wrestling team had they were kind of starting out. Now they're a really big wrestling team for women's wrestling. So you've seen how growth works. How do you say, is there any kind of ideas you would have to maybe grow girls wrestling in the state?
Yeah, well, I think they've done a good job, of creating more just women-specific tournaments. That's really huge. I've seen a lot of teams and programs do different things. I've seen like youth programs have bring your sister to practice day. Like all the little boys, they get to bring their sister. If they have a sister, hey, today's the day, you bring them here. Creating those types of opportunities is really big. You're really seeing a big push for that at the top, the Division I level as well. But just kind of just letting it be known in the community. That's one thing I'm trying to do with social media. I had a coach in Georgia reach out to me the other day, Coach Matheny, great guy. And he was talking about, just simple things like writing a newspaper article, weekly, and getting information out and promoting it anyway. That the more you see it, the more normal it becomes. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, women's wrestling is not the norm for us right now. But it's becoming the norm. And I think you have to just promote it as much as you can, get it out there as much as you can, provide those opportunities and help them to see that, there's, especially just women's wrestling at collegiate level, there's a lot of scholarship opportunities for that as well. So.
Well, Coach, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to my viewers?
No, man, I just really, I can't wait to see you guys again. I love Alabama wrestling. I believe truly we can take this entire state to an entirely new level. So I would appreciate all the support. I've already gotten a lot of follows and stuff on Instagram and Twitter and our Facebook page. So I'm trying to really do a good job of promote that. So if y'all would follow that, Saraland Wrestling, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that's my shameless plug. So anything we can do to support each other and anything I can do for you guys, man, y'all reach out, let me know. We're in this together. We're going to build this together. So I can't wait.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. And thank you all you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay cool. I've been wrestling.